The Office of Management and Budget has pushed agencies to consolidate data centers and use existing centers more efficiently. The Government Accountability Office finds OMB can do more to track how it's measuring server use. David Hinchman's acting director for information technology and cybersecurity issues at GAO. Dave, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. You get right at the crux of this in the beginning of your report. You looked at data center inventories, you looked at cost savings documentation, and data center optimization strategic plans. What'd you find?
So there were three aspects to this, and you cottoned onto what those three things are. We've been doing this work since 2011. This is our 11th report on data centers. And for the last 6 years, we've been following a mandate in the Federal IT Acquisition Reform Act that requires us to annually go in and look at OMB's program. We look at exactly what you said. We look at the closures they're reporting, we're looking at their optimization metrics, and we're looking at the savings that resulted from that. And generally, it's really a good news story. This year, agencies reported closing over 100 data centers. Almost all agencies met their closure goals. All told, they've closed something like over 6,000 data centers since this program started. For savings, they reported about $830 million in savings this year for a total of about $6.2 billion since 2012. And metrics is a little bit more of a mixed bag. 7 agencies have completely optimized their data centers that they're required to. Another 6 have reported great progress in meeting all 4 of their metrics, and the other agencies continue to improve their performance.
It is a good news story, and you're not the only organization across government to see it as such. However, with all due respect to you and your colleagues at GAO, there's usually a but in your work, and the but here, it strikes me, is this. Agencies have excluded approximately 4,500 data centers from their inventories since May 2019. Is that the but that I always expect to find in GAO work? And if so, where did it come from?
For the consolidation numbers, absolutely. And this is an area that continues to be a concern for us. In 2019, OMB changed the definition of what a data center meant, and as a reduced the scope of the amount of data centers. Included in that is the 4,500 data centers that you mentioned. Those are no longer reported in inventories. They're no longer part of DCOI, and that's a concern because all of these facilities, although they generally tend to be small, each of those represent a potential point of vulnerability for cybersecurity or physical access. We think it's incredibly important that agencies continue to track those locations. They don't need to be part of the consolidation initiative, but they do need to be monitored. And I think, for example, of the significance of that, of those 4,500, our calculations are that about 850 are going to stay open, but at least 13 of those are facilities that are at least 5,000 square feet.
So the impact wouldn't be tremendous, it doesn't sound like, if those numbers went back into the metrics that you talked about a moment ago. It doesn't sound like they're skewing the numbers tremendously, are they?
No, and I think that what's important here is, and we made a recommendation to OMB about this, these facilities don't need to be included in the data center consolidation initiative. But I think it is very important that they continue to be tracked, both for transparency so that agencies remember that they have these facilities and can be mindful of the potential vulnerabilities that they represent.
One of the broader things here, I think, is lexicon, is the terminology that we use. For years, we talked about this as data center consolidation, and now the very top title of your work, data center optimization. What's the difference to someone in your position looking at this from an audit analytical perspective between those two terms?
So when the program started back in 2010, it was very focused on consolidation. There were, I think the peak of the inventory was somewhere over 12,000 data centers. And as you might imagine, a lot of those are extraneous and don't need to be there. As agencies have gotten better about shedding their excess inventory and becoming more efficient with the remaining facilities, the focus of the program has really shifted from consolidation to optimization. And we agree with that. I think that's the right thing to do. Agencies are getting down to the core facilities that they really need and turning their attention to making them run as efficiently as possible.
You write regarding recommendations here that GAO reiterates agencies need to address the 53 recommendations previously made to them that haven't yet been implemented. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about 53 recommendations, but are there common themes among what agencies should do in those 53 recommendations, Dave?
Absolutely. They generally, a lot of them are centered around the metrics. That's the greatest area improvement for agencies to make. We think that by implementing our recommendations, they'll be better positioned to run their facilities as efficiently as possible. There are also a few scattered recommendations around savings and making a better effort to consolidate data centers.
Very quickly, 30 seconds left. What would you like to see agencies do to prevent backsliding?
They need to stay on it. They've done a great job. I think that should be acknowledged. A lot of people's hard work has gone into achieving the numbers we talked about. 6,500 closures, 6.2 billion in savings. So let's keep the eye on the prize, shift the focus to making the remaining facilities work as well as they possibly can.
Dave Hinchman, thanks very much.
Thank you.